Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our What is a WE-CAN Mastermind virtual cafe. It's so great to have everyone here. I love seeing your faces, and I totally understand if you're multitasking off screen, but welcome. It's great to have you with us today. We've got, I hope, a lot of good stuff ahead that's going to be helpful to you, that hopefully will even change your business for the better. And I know some of our past masterminders are on the call as well today. Thank you so much for joining us. I know what you have to add to the session today will be so valuable. For those of you who haven't yet met me, my name is Carrie Ramsey. I am the project manager for the WE-CAN project, which is led and funded by Queen's Partnerships and Innovation through Queen's University, of course. And it's just an honor and a privilege to be here today. I'm going to be talking about masterminds because I've been facilitating masterminds here in the WE-CAN project for the last 2.5 years. And so we now have a few under our belt that we can talk about. And I hope, just we can all sort of learn from those experiences. But just before we get into that, I want to invite you to connect with each other in the Zoom chat. This is also an opportunity to say, hi, I'm Danielle. Hey, I'm Jackie, or whoever you are. Let us know maybe where you're from. If you have a business, go ahead and drop that into the chat as well. It's always helpful to find out who's on the call so that perhaps you could even collaborate with them in the future, or at the very least, maybe follow them on social. While you're taking a moment to connect in the Zoom chat, I'm going to acknowledge that Queen's University is situated on the ancestral territory of the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe peoples, and it is an honor to live, work, and play on these ancestral lands. As many of you know, Indigenous women entrepreneurs are a huge part of the WE-CAN project. They are a priority group for us. And so it has been so wonderful to have so many Indigenous women entrepreneurs in our past masterminds. I know there's some on the call today. I know many of you will perhaps apply to be in our future masterminds as well. And the benefit of that, of course, is not only does that allow us to serve and support Indigenous-owned businesses, but there is a value and such a richness of being in a mastermind where, we're all sharing our cultures, we're all sharing our experiences. And I, for one, could speak to the fact that that has certainly enriched me as a business owner and even as facilitator of the mastermind. So thank you so much to those who are taking a moment right now to connect in the Zoom chat. It's great to have you all here. So today's session is intended to provide some background on the WE-CAN Masterminds, which, as I just mentioned before, have been running for a couple of years now with I would say some great success. They have I think we've had 6 masterminds right now. And I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but each of our masterminds is 6 months in length. So some of you are like, oh, that's a big commitment. Don't worry about it. It's not 6 months intensive. It's about an hour every 2 weeks over the course of 6 months. And the brilliant thing about the continuity of a mastermind is that you're able to come back to the same group, every couple of weeks, and to grow and flourish together. So I'm going to kind of pull it right back to brass tacks, start with what is a mastermind, and then hopefully add in some of the different flavors of what makes a WE-CAN mastermind perhaps a little bit different. So a mastermind, essentially, is a group of individuals. In our cases, it's women identifying entrepreneurs who are from a similar geographic region. So you know that Queen's University is located in Kingston, Ontario. So our priority is to serve women entrepreneurs in the greater Kingston and Bay of Quinte region. All right, so that's sort of our mandate. And if you're outside those regions, don't drop off the call yet, because there might actually be some value in learning about what a mastermind is, so you can start one in your own area. I think that this is something that is valuable around the world, obviously, so not just limited to our region. But if you are in the region of Kingston and Quinte, then this might be an opportunity for you. So each mastermind that we run is comprised of about 10 women, approximately. Sometimes we've had a little bit more than 10, but never fewer than 10. And so we've served about 60 women, I would say, over the last couple of years through our masterminds. And some of those have been repeat masterminders who have had a great experience, and then they've come back for a subsequent mastermind. And that's entirely possible as well. So what is a mastermind exactly? So we meet together for 1 hour every 2 weeks. And the purpose is to grow our business, right? So if this is something you're interested in, really that's what the mastermind is. It's not just to rant, not just to vent or complain, or it's not to, I don't know, certainly not to criticize anyone else. We are there to grow our own business and to grow the businesses of the women in the group, right? So you can consider it your very own pod of supporters. And it's like having a sounding board right there at your fingertips. And I don't know if you want to raise your hand physically or in the Zoom chat, if you're a solopreneur, but I myself, I have a business as well. And I know you can have a lot of meetings with yourself in your head and you start to lose it after a while. So having this group of women that are going to be there for you every couple of weeks, you can talk about things and maybe bring up questions in a very confidential forum where you might not be able to share those questions elsewhere. And so this brings me to the opportunity to share that everyone who is a part of our mastermind signs a confidentiality agreement through Queen's University. It's very important to us that our masterminders feel that what they share, the questions they ask, maybe they have an idea and they want to bounce it around, that those people are not going to go there and tell someone else. It's a confidential environment. And I will say that to my knowledge, we have never had an issue with leaks in the mastermind. So I've never had to deal with anything as the facilitator. And, that's 2 years of masterminds. So I hope that provides a little bit of comfort. Having said that, obviously, we are looking to create pods, if you will, masterminds of women who are not necessarily direct competitors, right? That doesn't make a lot of sense to put competitors in the same mastermind. So we would be mindful when we're reviewing the applications. By the way, the application link drops today. I'll make sure you have it before this session is over. You would apply, right? And then we would review the application. Pardon me. Going to take a sip. Hold on. We would review applications to make sure that the composition of each mastermind is really beneficial, right? And so that there is no one that is directly competing. All right, so those are a few things right off the bat. As I mentioned, the masterminds go for 6 months. Our new masterminds, which we're inviting applications for starting today, will begin in June, so next month, and they will run till November. So that's 6 months, right? So I'll give you some specific dates in just a moment because there are various masterminds that start on different dates, but I'll give you those specifics today. I realize that includes the summer months, right? And some of you might be like, oh, but I'm going on vacation. Oh, I'm going to the cottage. Well, very often we have people who link in because everything's virtual. It's all done through Zoom. So people link from their cottages, from their trailers, like that's fine. That's the beauty of virtual. But if you absolutely cannot and you miss like a mastermind session, it's certainly not the end of the world. But we do invite committed people, right? We don't want to see that you show up to 2 and then you're gone because there's no continuity then, right? The value of the mastermind is in committed participants who want to show up for their own business and the businesses of other women in their region, right? And those are the people we attract, I'll be honest. So that's, if you want to be a kind of a part of that group and commit to that, then that's the type of applicants that we're looking for. Okay, so the structure of a mastermind, what exactly happens in a mastermind? As I mentioned, we meet by Zoom. I facilitate, so administratively, I provide you with all the Zoom links and all of that. So nobody has to worry about when and where to be. I'll make sure you know. But we have a 1-hour mastermind every 2 weeks, and they tend to be on Friday mornings at 10 a.m. Let me specify that. All right. That tends to work for my schedule. And so that's sort of the schedule we've adopted. And it's so if you're like, oh, Fridays is my busiest day of the week, might not be the best fit for you. However, there may be a solution, which I'll share with you shortly as well. We have, so what do we do in that mastermind session? We open with 5 minutes of weekly wins. That's how we kick off every mastermind session. And as people share great things that have happened. And then we head into our 2 hot seats. All right, so each mastermind session features 2 hot seats, and a hot seat means that 2 of our participants are on the hot seat, or they show up with a challenge that they're facing that week and they want to share with the rest of the group. So maybe Martha from Pedalworks is there and she's starting up a business and she's like, okay, here's my challenge this week. And so everyone's like, okay, for 25 minutes, we brainstorm. We're like, what about this resource? How about this idea? And I cannot express to you the benefit of having other people look at your business through a different lens, because sometimes we're just like, we've got tunnel vision and we're like, I did not even think of that person or that opportunity. So really each mastermind session, then we focus on 2 business owners and really drill down. And there's a lot of ground that we can cover in 25 minutes, I'll be honest. And then the next week or the next session, it's 2 other people's turn. And so I provide the hot seat schedule right at the beginning of it. And people, obviously within a 6-month period, you would be on 2 hot seats, which on the one hand, you might think, oh, but I'm only getting help twice. I would invite in a few minutes, some of my past masterminders to share the value of sitting through other people's hot seats. Because what happens is someone will bring up a challenge. You're like, that's a challenge I have, or that's a challenge I'm about to have, or they might not even realize that they had that challenge, right? So it's like all these spotlights on business from different angles. And so even if it's not your turn, there is a lot of value, and even just sometimes listening and of course participating as well. All right, so and so we end off every mastermind with 5 minutes of wrap up, whatever that might look like. And that's the hour. It goes fast. It always does. We record each session and we post those recordings inside our private mastermind Facebook groups. So each of our mastermind has their own mastermind Facebook group, which only has those 10 women plus myself as members. And so again, if you want to go back and watch that recording, you can do so. I should mention, do ask though, at the beginning of each hot seat, would you like this recorded? And sometimes people say, no, I don't feel comfortable with it being recorded. Fine, we don't record it. The value is for you so that you could go back later and rewatch if you missed something, but we completely understand if people don't want those recorded, and we respect that entirely. So again, for confidentiality, those are not shown outside the Facebook group. The Facebook group, since I'm mentioning it, is also really handy because we only have that 1 hour together. And sometimes there's conversation overflow, right? That someone thinks of something later. And so they just go in there like, hey, I remember Cheyenne mentioned that she was struggling with this. Here's a great article, or here's a great video, or here's the link to the book that I mentioned in our mastermind session, right? So all of those, that overflow seems to work very well for the purpose of that group. And those groups go on. I have not yet disbanded any of them. So if any of it just continues if people want to continue supporting each other. I think the final thing I'm going to say for this point until I break for questions, and I'm sure then I'll continue going, but I will say that we have traditionally in the past had 2 stages of mastermind. One mastermind is for early stage businesses, which have launched their business and have been in operation for less than 2 years. All right, so 2 years or less, that's our early stage group. And then we have our growth stage group, which is for folks who have been in business more than 2 years. Okay, we are currently considering the possibility of adding a 3rd mastermind for idea stage entrepreneurs, which means you haven't launched the business yet. You're thinking you'd like to launch a business. And so that's a very different group of individuals. And so if there are 10 people who are in the idea phase and you're like, oh, I could really use just, some cheerleaders and some folks to help me along the way, then that's a new segment that we're considering. And so that's just something I'll throw out there. When you see the registration link, you'll see that I ask for that information, how long you've been in business, so that I know how to sort you. And so I just wanted to mention that as well. All right, I'm going to take a sip. Are there any questions at this point? I have not been monitoring the Zoom chat. Apologies. But if someone wants to raise their hand, go ahead and let me know if you have a question at this point. And then I want to invite some of our past masterminders to maybe give some insights. Then I'm going to get into a little bit more of the details also. Maybe it seems like it's already been very detailed. I apologize for that, but all right, so anyone, okay, Susan says, what level of growth is this mastermind? Oh, sure. So there's two levels. Early stage mastermind is for you're in business of 0 to 2 years. Okay, so less than 2 years. If you're in a growth stage mastermind, we would consider that you have been in business more than 2 years. And that is a question on the application form. So Susan, I hope that helps. Does that
And
work?
which one is this that you're talking about?
Oh, we're talking about all of them today. So when I launched the applications today, it's for all of our masterminds for the next 6 months, because we run them concurrently. Just for my sanity. It just works well when I run them all together. Allison, a question from you.
So even though I've had my business for like ever, I've never done anything with it. So I think I had my business license in like 2008, but I've been working and I've just always had other things going on and I've done nothing. And now I'm kind of like, you know, before I was kind of like, well, I'll look for a job. And now I'm like, no, that's not in the cards for me at this time. So my business better work.
It's
So
go time.
it's go time. It's like, you know, get off the pot and
Sure,
go.
sure. So in that case, I would consider, like, how many years do you feel you've been operation? Like, it's not when did you incorporate, it's have you actively been in business? And if you feel you've actively been in business less than 2 years, then you can indicate that on the application. Or if you're like, no, I'm literally just starting, I feel like that's where I'm at, then you just would tick that box. And so that allows us to put you in the correct group. If is that the question?
Yeah. Cause I was just like, I don't know. I'm probably, who knows where.
Yeah.
I'm probably at
So,
the idea stage. I'm kind of like researching different things and
right.
trying to figure out where I fit. And like, even, you know, just target market, mission statement. Like, I feel like even though I've done this forever, I've just completely changed my mind as to what I
Yeah,
really want to do, I
that's
guess.
valid. So you just check if you feel you're starting really from scratch and it's a brand new business, even though you had experience, then you can indicate that. That's perfectly fine. We have some people who have, you know, had a business for 20 years, but they just closed that one. They're starting a new one. So, you know, sometimes they feel like they're back at square one. It's a different game than it was 20 years ago. That's fine. It's where you would identify. I would just say, like, don't ever underestimate yourself. Sometimes women tend to do that, right? So like, oh, I don't know if I'm growing. Well, if you've been actively in business for at least 2 years, you're ready to grow. That's usually what I say. And you're in that growth stage. Great question though. So we'll invite you to self-identify on the survey, or not the survey, the application. And if there's ever any questions or confusion, you have my email. Anyone can reach out for that. So I just dropped the application link into the Zoom chat just to let you know, so that you don't have to fill it out right now. It's not like the first come, first serve. So just, you know, if you're like, oh, I don't know how to use the Zoom chat, just email me after this session. Carrie, can you just email it to me directly? I will do that. The other thing is it will be in this Monday's newsletter in our WE-CAN weekly news digest. If you're not getting that weekly news digest, make sure you get on that. So I think that was the only other question I saw at this point. Did I miss another? Feel free to put your hand up and I can answer that. If not, I'll peel back some more of the layers of this experience. I have a cat joining us now. All right, so what I will say is in the masterminds, like, what do we talk about? I think that's the big thing that people bring up. Like, what kind of challenges do people bring? And I will say we have just, and then I'm going to kick it over to a couple of our past masterminders. Tammy, Cheyenne, you're both on the call today, I see. So I'll kick it over to you in just a moment. And this might be a good segue because we've talked about everything from imposter syndrome to what happens when somebody copies my business to I need some help with marketing. How do I get more visibility? How do I get the word out that I even exist? To, hey, I'm looking for someone to collaborate on this. Does any, you know, every topic. I remember one or two times we had people who had just revamped their websites, came in and we shared the screen and we all, you know, sort of gave feedback on the new website format as outside users. And again, sometimes we get that tunnel vision, we get stuck in our business, and just that outside vision can really help. So every topic that I can think of, we've dealt with. How to fire clients, how to find clients, how to fire clients. It's the gamut, right? So I'm gonna kick it over to Cheyenne and then followed by Tammy, maybe. I don't know if Cheyenne, you have some things to add at this point, and I'll continue after that.
I can always talk. I'm Cheyenne. I was reading the chat. There seems to be a really lovely group of women here today. It's really exciting to see. I'm a huge fan of the WE-CAN community. It's been crucial for my own business growth and my professional or my personal development. I have been part of 3 different masterminds. I joined at the early stage. I did 2 of those, and then I got the courage to move myself up to the growth stage, largely because of Carrie. She's very good at making sure you don't sell yourself short. And the support that you get from a lot of the other women in your group really helps to build the confidence that you need to move forward. So there's been so much personal development for me with the mastermind groups. With some, I'm sure I'm one of the ones that brought up an imposter syndrome question. I brought up a lot of mindset questions when I've been on the hot seat. And then the professional development you get as well from being around other women who are in the middle of it. Some are ahead of you, some are in a different stage as you. And just being able to bounce off a lot of those really technical issues, it really gives you a wealth of knowledge that you can tap into. And it helps you understand that even though things can seem really overwhelming, it breaks it down for you. And you really feel that camaraderie with other women who are balancing professional challenges as well as sometimes personal challenges, and how we find those type of balances. And the other really big benefit that I've gotten out of being part of this is the networking. I have found new clients, I've connected with collaborators, and just being part of the general WE-CAN network at large has been crucial for me. Like Carrie mentioned earlier, I'm a solopreneur as well. It can get pretty lonely and pretty intimidating. So having this group of women to connect to in your mastermind Facebook group, in your meetings, but also in the WE-CAN community at large has been absolutely crucial for me.
Awesome. Love it. Cheyenne's been so active. And that's what I love, when people just commit to it. Like, you have no choice but to grow because you're investing in your business. You're going to get an ROI for sure. Tammy, over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tammy Watson. I operate the Canadian Handywoman in North Frontenac, and I left the corporate world and didn't know what I was doing. Started this business as a solopreneur, and I hit a wall, and thank God I found WE-CAN. So basically, I wrote down the top 5 reasons why not just WE-CAN, but the Mastermind series really helped me out as an entrepreneur. And a lot of it, I'm going to totally echo Cheyenne, which isn't surprising because we've been on a couple of the masterminds ourselves. So top 5 reasons. 1, entrepreneurship is a journey of self-discovery. That was my number 1 huge aha moment, that, it's me who I'm selling. Yeah, I'm selling a service, but ultimately it's me. I had a lot of difficulties with that, grasping that, growing from that, and it's been a wonderful journey. I've absolutely received help in the during the mastermind on that process. Number 2, you don't know. Number 2 and 3 are the same. You don't know if you're going to receive inspiration or be the inspiration. You have no idea. It is incredibly inspiring to be in a group of women who are putting themselves out there. And you just never know when someone is going to see that, a thought that you have and be totally, that's what I want to do, or that's what I don't want to do. Or if you're going to see someone and say, I really like that idea. So whether you're going to be the inspiration or receive the inspiration, it's going to happen. It's definitely. So that's 2 and 3. Number 4, it takes a village. We need each other. We need the help. That has been one of my biggest realizations. We can't do this on our own. And just having the moral support of someone to be with you is absolutely invaluable. Like, it's wonderful to be part of this village that we all have a common thread in it. Number 5, exactly what Cheyenne said, is the networking. You can find an accountant. You can find a bookkeeper. I've been very lucky. I found a mentor. And again, some of them know that they're mentors and some of them don't know that they're mentors, but absolutely, you're going to be a mentor. And then the last thing that is found, I have found incredible friendship. Me and Celia, like, I love this woman. I ultimately love this woman. And it is strictly because I met her on one of these masterminds, and her and I just jived. and we went off the mastermind, and we continue with, you know, accountability partnership, and we're continuing to work. And the mastermind was the beginning of it. And if you're lucky enough to find someone to work through that, that's again worth it. So that's it, Carrie.
That's so sweet, but so kind. That is, I mean, it's so true. It's the absolute truth. It's relationship building is business, right? And so the reason why the WE-CAN community exists, you know, for women entrepreneurs is we know that for decades and decades, you know, men, and we love them. I mean, I'm married to the same one for 26 years, love him dearly, but there have been, you know, all sorts of supports and all sorts of clubs and all sorts of networking things that have really ideally suited, you know, men identifying entrepreneurs. And now it's like, aha, this is the gas that we pour on the business. This is the fuel that lights it up, right? And so when we have that aha moment, it's like, oh, it's the relationships that, you know, I can only do so much on my own. At some point, I need to ask for help, or I need to bring someone in. And so then that community is just so vital. Celia, did you want to say something? You have certainly been a part of masterminds in the past as well.
Sure. I've only been in one mastermind, but yeah, I want to do it again. So yeah, first of all, Tammy, love you both. And Cheyenne too. I work with Cheyenne for my marketing. Tammy and I have been accountability partners since mastermind, and I just love her to bits. Yeah, it's been a transformative process, and I echo what Cheyenne and Tammy say about it's a mix of everything. You get the business, but it's also, I brought a lot of personal stuff in because, as Tammy says, it's a personal transformation when you do it. You know, wherever you go, there you are. You know, becoming an entrepreneur is one of the most life-changing experiences you can do, like it or not. You have to grow in order to make the business work. You know, just I can't tell enough about it. And it wasn't even the business stuff. It was as much the business stuff was great, but it was as much the camaraderie and knowing that I'm not alone, because the feeling of isolation when you're starting your own business and you're in your own business by yourself, it can be overwhelming. So yeah, and hats off to Carrie. Carrie is amazing. If you guys haven't gotten to know her already, please do. Yeah, hands
That's
down.
so sweet.
That's all I really wanted to say. I'm here for moral support for two of my good BFFs here, and just because I want to do it again. And it's a wonderful community of people joining.
Yeah, great place to find your business bestie. I call them business besties because, like, I mean, we all know how hard it is to find people to connect with in this world, and this could possibly be that place where you find that. And I just wanted to make a mention of the diversity of folks on the call in terms of ages and backgrounds and businesses. I mean, we can stick to our own kind, where it's like we're a healthcare business, so we just stick with people in healthcare, you know, or whatever. But just having the intersection of different industries can really light up a room sometimes, because we suddenly get outside views. And also the idea of, you know, different ages. I mean, we have had, you know, all sorts of different, you know, interactions and dynamics. And I just think that the more diverse the mastermind, the more rich the mastermind. And I'm sure that folks can speak to that from experience as well. I don't want to be in the same room with a whole bunch of other people just like me to tell me what I want to hear and what I think I already know. I want people who look at things differently, so I can grow, so I can be better, so I can, you know, maybe avoid some blind spot or see my blind spots and really get better as a person and as a professional. And Celia, you're so right. I mean, the line between personal and professional is pretty much, you know, it's not there. It's like, we are our business if we're running it. And so, yeah. So that idea is just, it's so true. It's really hard to take that away. All right. So thank you for those masterminders. And if there's some others I haven't seen, I'll pull you into the call shortly as well. I want to get down to some brass tacks then about the new mastermind that we're launching. And I think I will just put the link in there one more time because, well, I'll probably put it again, but some people have just joined us on the call. So we are heading into our new sets of masterminds. At present, we are planning on 2 different masterminds, one for early stage businesses in business 2 years or less. And then we have a growth stage mastermind for 2 years or more. They run for 6 months, every 2 weeks. So every second Friday at 10 a.m. That's the time that I've scheduled it. And it is a power-packed hour. There are 11 of those sessions. It's kind of an odd number. I would have liked to make it 12, but there's 11. So the first one is a get to know you, kind of like we all get to know each other in that first mastermind session. And then the hot seats start the following week. So there are 11 altogether. If you think about 6 months and you basically meet 11 times, that actually that's 11 hours, right? And so it's not that much. But of course, what you do outside of that time, when you connect with these different accountability partners or business besties, as we're talking about, that's up to you. But the kind of the commitment to the program would be 1 hour every 2 weeks, according to a schedule that actually the schedule is in the link that I shared. All the dates are there. So you can see, because I've already had to map it out for myself because I have some holidays in the summer. And again, I'll reiterate that we realize life happens, you have businesses, but we ask that you commit to as many of those sessions and like carving that sacred hour, I call it, and not booking a client that day if possible, not letting someone pull you into something else, saying this is an hour for me to invest in me, and the rest of the time, fine, it's for other people, but it's really important. All right, so this year then we are this session we are going to start on, let me just give you the exact date. The early stage mastermind will start on June 16th and it will go until November 17th. So if you have been in business 2 years or less and you're applying, just to let you know, all of these dates, by the way, are in that application link. And then our growth stage mastermind will begin on Friday, June 23rd. And I realize that's at the end of the school year. And some of you are like, oh my, it's Nicola, it's all online. It's all virtual. Okay, so for time, for efficiency. And also, yeah, so I'll get to that a little bit more, but yes. So those are the dates, but every session is outlined. And so if I schedule you for a hot seat and you're like, oh, Carrie, I'm in the UK that day because we have a scheduled time, fine, just let me know early enough so we can put someone else in that hot seat and we people trade places, right? But if you're like not there for either of your hot seats and no one else is canceling, like I can't help you. It's just like, we do our best, right? And you show up to the best of your ability. Obviously, but we are looking to people to commit to themselves and to the other women in the program. The deadline to apply, it's a very short deadline. It's next Friday. So I've given people like a week because I know there's a lot of demand. And so I don't want it to go on for weeks. Also, I just want to get these things started. So June 2nd is the deadline at noon. So make sure you get your application in. Just because you apply, it doesn't guarantee you a spot. That's important to highlight. And I mentioned that we have an early stage mastermind with 10 women, approximately. Sometimes we go a little bit more than that. We also have a growth stage mastermind for 10 women. So that's 20 women altogether. If there is demand for an idea stage mastermind where you say, you know what, I'm in the very early stages, haven't yet launched it, we are considering starting one. We have not yet run one in the past, but and so on the register or the application form, you would just indicate that you are launching a business. And then I would know that that would be the one you were applying for. Okay. So really there's 3 stages of business that we're opening this up to. And we're going to kind of take a look at what the demand is this go around and see. If you have been in a past mastermind, you may reapply. All right. Just to let you know. But we are going to give priority to folks who have never had the experience. Obviously, that makes sense. We also have priority groups that we are mindful of. And so in terms of eligibility, I did mention this right at the top in general terms, but let me just get into the eligibility here. First of all, because Queen's University, which funds the masterminds, is located in Kingston, our priority groups are the Greater Kingston and the Greater Bay of Quinte region. That includes Prince Edward County, whoop, whoop, if you're here from the county, all right? So, so just to let you know. So that's the geography. If you're like, Carrie, I don't know if my geography is eligible, that's one of the questions on the application. All right. So you'll just tell me where you are. If you're rural, like you're just outside Kingston, that's fine. But we have a general region that we serve. We ask that you be a woman identifying entrepreneur. All right. That's the other big piece here. And then we do have some priority groups, and I'll list them for you now. These are what traditionally have been considered underrepresented groups in the business sector, right? And so I call them underestimated groups myself. But here we go. So we're going to give priority to core service groups, including Indigenous women, women of color, women in technology, women with a disability, women identifying members of the LGBTQ2S community, women in healthcare, Queen staff and faculty members. So if you cut, I'm not to say you have to be in one of those groups. I'm just saying those are priority groups for our program. We want to make sure that everyone has access. And then, of course, as many of you know, because you've applied to other things that WE-CAN has done, there very likely will be a spot for you. But those are going to be the first spots that we fill. All right. We feel that those women need to we want to make sure we serve them. And then we will also, of course, embrace and serve as many others as we can. Okay. I'll pause for questions again. Some of you drifted in a little bit later. That's okay, because you're busy, you're entrepreneurs. So there might be a question that has come up since I've been speaking. I'll pause to see if there are any other questions. Nope. It's all good. Rita, you're not on mute, but that's not a question, right?
No, hi. No, it's a more comment about something you talked about, but you've gone through so much information since. But I just wanted to encourage people in the concept of giving themselves maybe Fridays to work on their business, because I did have an experience where a man hired me to take the load off him as the owner, solopreneur he had been. And his business had just hugely grown. But what he really had to do was to say, I need a day to grow my business, to just be on the business versus, you know, putting out problems and talking to everybody who comes to my door. So that
I love that.
Yeah, he really kind of drew some lines and said, even though you're across the hall, I want you to send me an email, unless it's really like very important to have a face-to-face.
Yeah.
So he saved his time that way.
I love it. Yeah, and we've talked a lot about boundary setting in masterminds as well. Actually, that's a very common topic. I love that. And by the way, many people are familiar with the Google algorithm, right? That basically it's the 80-20 rule, right? People employees of Google work there for 4 days a week, and then they have 1 day a week where they play in the sandbox, basically, and they invent stuff. And the reason for that is that it works. It's because it gives you a little bit of time to get outside of the business, even though maybe you're working on the business, not necessarily in the business. So that is a really great point, Rita. Thank you for bringing it up. Thank you. Now, did I miss anyone who was in a past mastermind who might just want to give some insight? I think that, looking at the names, I think we hit, oh, Ruth, you were, and I don't know if Ruth is working right now, but I think Ruth was, oh, Christine, there you are. Yes, welcome back. And I know some of you are multitasking, so might not be able to participate. But if you even have a comment in the Zoom chat that you wanted to put, that's fine as well. So someone asked, will it be in person or online? All of our sessions are via Zoom, and I provide all of those contacts to you. Go ahead, Ruth.
Hi, everyone. Hi. So I really appreciated the mastermind, the early stage mastermind, because it really helped me to shape my company at the beginning. And also because we were pretty much still in the pandemic, having that group of people to share with was very supporting and very encouraging. It's like literally having like a board, but that is not your board, but everyone is sharing, everybody's engaging. And that really supported me in the beginning of my Finda Beauty Care company. Right now, I actually had to pause a little bit, and I went back to school to study hairstyling, because I know about the market now, and I know that's going to grow. As an esthetician, to add hairstyling to it, it will just expand. And I believe I got out of that by participating into the mastermind, the early one, for those who are in the business for less than 2 years. So I would love to be part of it again for the growing, those who will be for 2 years to 3 years time. And yeah, but I just wanted to share, definitely, it's a great group to share with.
That's so awesome. Thanks, Ruth. It was so great to have you in that mastermind. I love it.
Thank
And yeah, we pivot. We take, sometimes people come in with one idea of the business. I think Allison, referred to this earlier, maybe people shifted a little bit, and that's okay too, right? It's your business ultimately. And I think the important thing is that, when you're in a mastermind where 9 people are giving you their thoughts and opinions, you take that away and you decide which of those is the most applicable for you at that moment and that season, right? And so I think that as business owners, we just have to get used to doing that. I will say that I've never really experienced where that's been done in an unhealthy way, where people have offered their thoughts, right? Like nobody is like, oh, you should shut that business down, a crazy idea. Never. It's always been constructive, love-filled type, support. But ultimately, it's up to each individual business owner to say, yeah, that really spoke to me. That really resonated. That stuff, I don't feel that's for me right now, maybe later, right? But yeah, you can always go back to your notes and even the videos that we record. As I mentioned earlier in the session, we do record each of those mastermind sessions if people are okay with it in the mastermind, those who are on the hot seat, and then those go into the private Facebook group, right? For just those masterminders so they can watch it later. Sometimes, again, there's a lot that happens in 25 minutes and people are just listening, and then later they go back and you kind of write it down again. Tammy, go ahead. You have a comment.
I just want to comment on logistically when it's your turn on the hot seat, and maybe Carrie can change the language on that, because it gives I found it intimidates the person who wants to, whose turn it is to speak. And it's not a hot seat. It's the, it's just being your question. And what we've found, and Cheyenne and I kind of, I know we've done this and Celia's done it. If you put your question in the Facebook group ahead of time and allow people to think about it and ruminate about it, it really provides better answers. And it's whether it's, hey guys, I'm having an imposter syndrome moment, or you know what, I'm menopausing right now and hot flashing and can't, like, how do I do this? Or my kids are at school, how do I do this? The questions can really be as about your life, or it can be, when do I have to do HST? Like it really is all encompassing. And I find that the second round of questions are usually a little bit more tweaked in, because the nervous jitterness is over. But honestly, every time so it was 10 sessions times 2, but and my questions, I only had 2 questions, but every single session, and then so like each person there's 2 people per session, but every single person whose question was asked, I got something out of. Don't think that, oh, I'm only going to be able to speak twice or have my issue spoken to twice. It really is, your question is my question, maybe just with a little bit different flair, or a little bit more or less substance than what that person is asking.
So true. Love that. Love that. Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that, Tammy. Jade, over to you.
Thanks. I was just curious, for the group that's 2 years and less, do you have, and maybe this is too generalized, but a like top 3 to 5 things that typically pop up within those masterminds, or common things or questions that people usually ask?
Sure. So I'll invite the masterminders, past masterminders as well. Marketing. Yeah. Marketing, visibility. How do I get people to come to I need foot traffic to my store. I need I need traffic to my website. So I think
a lot of it is marketing, and something as simple as, what strategies can we use for Facebook? Like, because like Cheyenne is a professional marketer, and you're pretty much getting her service for free. She's very open and helping. Like you'd have to pay big bucks to have an hour with her, and it's not so, like, Cheyenne has the purview of, okay, I'm a marketer, and this is what marketer mind has. But then you also have, what, I might be your client, and I can give you a different perspective. Being able to talk to your client, knowing that, what, you really should talk to your client. The information that you glean, it really is the minutia of how to be an entrepreneur is what you get from it.
Love that. And just before we go to Cheyenne, I'll just mention, I saw Dr. Rebecca on the call. I saw Nancy Morgan on the call, 2 other masterminders. So if you guys want to put your hand up and contribute as well, I totally leave it to you. I know some of you are multitasking. Over to you, Cheyenne.
Just to quickly reinforce what Tammy said, the fact that quite often when we go into entrepreneurship, we create a product or service based on something we've developed because we wanted it, means quite frequently the people we're talking to, because we have an overlap in being women and being at in a mindset and a demographic that we have in common, quite frequently you are talking to your ideal audience. So the feedback, it's like having a focus group for you. It's absolutely incredible.
That's so true. Yeah. And I was also going to echo the fact that, and I know, Jade, your question was, what are the topics that come up? I mean, you've heard marketing for sure, imposter syndrome in that early stage, even though it never goes away. It's still in the growth stage, folks, as well. Boundary setting, that's come up a lot. You know, there's been some tech questions, I would say, but usually it's, you know, and that's sometimes, but usually it's not a tech issue. When we roll back the layer, peel back the layers, it's not a tech issue. It's, I'm not sure if this idea is good enough, or like, am I good enough? That's a big question that comes up, even though that it's not phrased that way. So I hope that helps.
You know, something else that I actually got several times, and one was from Cheyenne. I think it was GTD I got from you, but the you know what, this is what I use to learn. And you know, Carrie refers to book. Like if you need to know a book, Carrie is your go-to person, but just what other people use to learn is a great opportunity as well, if that makes sense.
And when people get funding, right? Like we've had so many of you on the call today who have gotten funding, and then you say, hey guys, here's the link to where I got funding, you should apply, right? So it's so broad in that way, but yeah, those are some of the common ones. Halu, go ahead.
Hi, I am in business for almost 17 years, but I still feel I'm really new to marketing because I didn't know anything about it. So which one should I apply for it?
So your business is established. So I would say definitely that's a growth stage business with, you know, marketing issues, right? And that's fine, right? Because so yeah, you've been very successful in your business, also high five to you, and has grown over the last couple years so much that I've seen. But I mean, I would put, you've been in business operating, making revenues, right? And that's another question, right? Have you got clients? Have you got paying customers? You certainly have. So I would say that's definitely a growth stage mastermind. So when people are contributing to whatever your challenge is, they'll look at that from that perspective. So marketing is something that never goes away as an issue. Let's be honest. It's always, visibility is huge. So that's a very good point, Kalu. It's not just an early stage issue. Marketing is for everyone, right? It just takes on, so yeah, Jackie says it changes shape. And so I think that's something we never will stop talking about. But the good news is we talk about more than marketing, you know, because sometimes before we can get to the marketing stage or the selling phase even, you know, there are some of those mindset things that just come up as barriers. And so we want to make sure that this mastermind is a place that we can say, this has been stopping me for whether it's months or years. I want to get past this. Can we just talk about this so I know other people are doing it. Can you help me out? Does anyone have anything to contribute? Does that help, Kalu?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, awesome. The other thing that someone mentioned was, Tammy talked about Cheyenne being in the group, you know, having that marketing background. You're going to have brilliant women in the group with you who all have a skill set, whether it's they're great with numbers, they're great with words, they're great with connections, right? And so again, everyone discounts their own skill set. Let's be honest, like, well, what am I going to add to this group? I'm going to be the stupidest person in the group. I've heard that before from clients. Like, I don't know, Carrie, if I'm smart enough for a mastermind, right? Even the word sometimes kind of intimidates people. You are smart enough, you are worthy enough. It's time. You need to step forward. Just believe in yourself to submit the application, right? At the very least. And then, you know, let's say, because we have limited spaces, let's say you don't get into that mastermind. I will promise you personally that if you are within our geographic region, the WE-CAN project can serve you in different ways, right? So I do a lot of one-on-one coaching with our clients. Everything is free, right? And let me just address the fact that Just because it's free doesn't mean it's less quality than other groups, because don't forget, you're not paying for it, but Queen's University is funding it. So they're basically paying for your spot. And I do want to address that free issue, because some people say, ooh, I could pay $25,000 a year for this mastermind. And yes, that's the going rate, would be five, there's high prices to be in masterminds, right? Or I can, take this free opportunity that's like right in front of me and not worry about the fact that it's lower grade than I might be getting from a guru somewhere. The fact is that these are women who can relate to you. These are women largely from your own community who probably know people who can be your ideal customers and clients. So that having a hyper local group like that also I find is a benefit, because we know people in the region, and we've seen that happen over and over. I forget what that question was that sent me down that rant, but yeah. Don't worry about the free thing. Trust me, someone's paying for it. So, any other questions? We've got about 9 minutes left. I want to use up this time. Questions? I will put the registration link or the application link in there, and not, oh, sorry, I sent that privately to someone that time. There we go. If you've come in late to the call, I also want to mention that if you have questions, you can certainly, I'm going to go over to Kaylee's question. But if you have questions that you're not comfortable enough sharing this group, email me. You all know how to reach me because I sent you the link for this workshop today. Kaylee says, we're a young business. Our 1-year incorporation has just passed. High five, Kaylee and Abby, wherever you guys are. We need to file our income tax, but we don't really know where to start. Does anyone have references for an accountant? So that's a great type of question. And Kaylee, by the way, if you're not getting an answer here today in this group, definitely post it in our WE-CAN community Facebook group, because there's a lot of folks who post questions like that and then the answers pop up. That, by the way, is our general Facebook group, not to confuse you with the private mastermind Facebook groups. There's lots of groups. Michelle, do you have a question, Michelle?
Hello. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Yes, I do. I'm not in the demographic area. If there's extra spots, do you consider people outside of the demographic area?
What area are you in?
Northwestern Ontario.
Okay.
Well, so I'm close to Kenora.
Sure. So at the very least, you can have a conversation, because I know a lot of groups that are in that area. So there might be a connection that we can make, even that's an opportunity for you there. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks for coming, by the way. I love it. Okay. So Cal is asking if after I apply, when will we know? Yes, that's a great question. So the deadline for applications is next Friday, June 2nd, which is like June, people, right around the corner next week. At noon is the deadline for applications. And I am quite stringent. I do click off that button because we're going to have a lot. So I will be clicking that button off. And then you will know, let's see, that's the Friday. You'll know by the next week. We're pretty darn quick, because remember, I did say, and in case you weren't here earlier, our early stage mastermind starts on, sorry, I've got a lot of papers here. Someone probably wrote it down. Oh, so my last page, here it is. The early stage mastermind starts on June 16th, and the growth stage mastermind starts on June 23rd. If we do an idea stage mastermind, I'll let you know, but it will also start most likely during June. And so we want to make sure that you clear your calendar for Friday mornings as quickly as possible. So that's why I wanted to make sure that you guys, your applications come in, and if you've applied for things that WE-CAN, and many of you just heard acceptances today to one of our other big programs, we turn that around pretty darn quick. And it's to respect your time as well, obviously, for sure. Great. Someone is saying, which department of Queen's is this funding? No, it's not a study. That's a really good question. It's through Queen's Partnerships and Innovation. That's the department that is funding the WE-CAN project now. Of course, for the last 3 years, we were funded by FedDev Ontario, which was a government department. Once that funding ended, as it was intended to, Queen's felt very strongly that it wanted women entrepreneurs in our region to continue to be supported. So we actually have taken this on ourselves and are funding it ourselves. So it's not a study. We will not ask you, questions above the questions that we need for our metrics, because it's public money, right? This is a public institution. When people come into our masterminds or other programs, we do send out a questionnaire. It collects information about yourself and your business, you know, and the reason for that is that we have to, it's public money, so we have to be accountable for how we spend that money, right? So we do keep records, but all of that information, of course, is confidential. And the purpose of it is really to just, it's to enhance the ecosystem, the business ecosystem in our region. That's the reason. Also, of course, one of Queen's University's strategic initiatives is, you know, to engage with community and to do more to make this area a better place to live. That only benefits everyone. So that's a really good question. Where is this funding coming from and why? That's a really good one. All right, last 5 minutes of play. Any other thoughts before we wrap up? I know everyone has busy things to do today, but I hope at the very least that this has piqued your interest. If again, you are interested in committing to this kind of a mastermind, and it seems overwhelming, maybe one of our past masterminders, I'll let you guys, you know, speak to that. What if someone's feeling a bit overwhelmed about this idea of committing to a 6-month mastermind? Nancy's like, do it, people.
It goes in the blink of an eye. It goes in the
it does
blink
go
of an eye.
fast, right? Yeah, Cheyenne?
I am a single mom of 3. Overwhelm is my name. The masterminds, having that dedicated space, like Carrie says, the sacred hour of knowing where I'm going to stop. I'm going to just sit and connect with other women who are in business, keeps me so grounded. And knowing that I have those hot seats or the group to go to when I do have a question, it actually combats my overwhelm. I'm excited that they're offering it for the summer because before it wasn't available in the summer and I miss it. I find it really helps keep me more centered and less overwhelmed.
That's good to hear. And I've loved the feedback. Hey, Tammy, I wrote down the thing about the hot seats. I'm going to probably rename those so it's not so intimidating. Yeah, we haven't done in this summer because we were worried that people, you know, would be on vacation, etc. And then we're like, let's just do it because, you know, we want to fit in 2 masterminds before next May. So here's,
You know, one other comment I want to make, Carrie, quickly before
Sure.
we run out of time. I know that I'm not afraid to speak, and Cheyenne's not afraid to speak, and we ask lots of questions. And I know that there's people who are not as comfortable asking those questions. And what's great about the mastermind, because it's the 10 women, we have a nice mixture of those who like to speak and those who don't like to speak. So your question will probably, like if you're afraid to ask something, I'm sure it's going to come up for those that aren't afraid to ask the tough questions. So don't feel like you have to bare your soul or you know, you can or you don't have to. It's totally what you're comfortable with.
That's a really good point. Yeah, and I think it was already mentioned, the first round of hot seats, to be renamed, you know, people tend to focus more on business stuff. And then the second round, I find it's like, it gets deep. And we have gone deep, right, on some of these calls, and people have cried and people, you know, have vented. And that's good because we probably needed to do that in that moment, right? And never in a disrespectful way. I think I will say that it's a safe place for women to come. And I think Cheyenne had made the point before that, you know, we can have, by the way, I encourage you to be in masterminds with men as well, please. It's not like we hate men. We love the men, right? But there are different conversations that come up with a group of women. We've talked about menstruation cycles and how it affects productivity. And there is proven science out there, if you haven't yet checked into it, why we're more creative at certain times of the month and why 24-hour cycles do not always work for us. You know, there is so much richness to the conversation about, I mean, God help us during COVID when we were the ones mostly homeschooling. And, you know, there's a lot of things that women have faced, are facing. And again, with the diversity of our masterminds, you know, women face different things as well. Women of color, Indigenous women entrepreneurs, women with a disability. We can talk about this thing. It educates all of us. We then become allies, you know, and as a white settler, I will say that I like to think that I'm working and learning and listening to become a better ally. I think that that's only, you know, the richer, we're all the richer for it. So thank you so much, everyone, for giving us an hour today, because I know your time is precious. Thank you for investing this hour to learn a little bit, to see if this is a fit for you. And so if you feel it is, I'm going to one more time put that application link in there. And remember, it will also go out publicly now on our social media, but I wanted you to have it first because we want to make sure our whole community has access. And we'll put it in the newsletter once on Monday, and then those applications shut down as of Friday, June 2nd. And we will be monitoring. And this is not the last round of masterminds. So if for some reason you really wanted to get in and you didn't this time, we will start the next ones up in December. All right, so it is an ongoing thing. All right, thank you. Yes, thank you so much to Q for being our ASL interpreter today, even though she says she just likes to be invisible. I'm just like, no, you are an incredibly important part of this group. By the way, Q has been a part of many of our masterminds and has interpreted for our masterminds in the past, and we're so grateful to her. Okay, thank you.
Looking
everyone.
forward to get back in.
Yes, let's do it. Let's do it. All right, let's shut this baby down. I could go for another hour. All right, thanks so much, everyone. Have a beautiful day. If I didn't answer your question, reach out to me. All right, see you later. Bye-bye.